Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. My name is Josh and you're watching C3's Garage. In today's video, I have a very special video. We're gonna be working on the 79 Corvette. It's just a very easy job. We're gonna go ahead and restore the hood latches. I will say that I took great inspiration from another YouTube channel and also someone that I take great pride on learning from, as he's been quite the inspiration in my C3 Corvette, and that is 76 Corvette. I definitely suggest you give him a follow for all your Corvette needs, as well as any learning that you must do. He's amazing and he's really good at explaining. With that being said, let's get started. And as I mentioned, I usually try to keep the engine very clean and very nice looking for anyone that wants to look at the car. And so today I literally realized that my latches were full of gunk. I tried to clean them up with a brush, but that didn't do the job. They're not quite as dirty simply because I've tried to keep up with them as much as possible. I do want to power coat them just to give them a different look. I did power coat the hood strut bar and I think that came out really good. So I figured I would try on mine, just give it a different tone of look and stuff. Full disclosure, I do believe this part is a lot easier than that part. So we're gonna go ahead and disassemble this one first, kind of look at the components, and then we're gonna disassemble that one to see how much trouble that one gives us. Now for this job, I am using a size 13 and I'm just gonna go ahead and use my drill in a very low setting to make sure that we're able to remove the screws without damaging anything. All right, there seems to be 3 screws, 1 here and 2 here. There is another kind of cable. This is the hood latch cable pretty much. And so this pretty much unlocks or unlatches and latches your hood. So we might have to do a removal of this little screw right here as well. So let's go ahead and get this one out the way first. And as I mentioned, I do have it in a very low setting, so let's up the setting. And so as you guys can tell, these are very rusted and look kind of old, so we're gonna go ahead and give them a quick update. All right, so now we have to remove this pin from this cable and we have to remove this holder. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and remove these ones as mentioned. I'm using a size 8 bit for this one and I'm just gonna give it a quick twist. And that's pretty much out. I'm gonna leave the screw in there. There's no need to take that off. Then let's lift this up a little bit. You have to take this little clip so that way this could release. So just be careful with this. I can remove it. Oh, that was easy. Whoa, something just flew away. Let me just go check. So something flew away and I think it was a washer. So I'm gonna look for it later, or I may just replace the washer. But here's the little piece that you need to be very careful when installing this bag. You don't want to lose this piece. Make sure that you keep this piece close to you as it is very little. So let's go ahead and continue. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the hood latch for the C3 Corvette, and as I mentioned, it's not in a very bad state. I was cleaning it a few weeks back, and that's why I decided to go ahead and see how to dismount this because I wanted to kind of give it a better cleanup and then maybe paint this as well. So let's go ahead and give it a cleanup and let's look at what the car looks without it. And as you guys can tell, there's a ton of gunk in here. I mean, it's just grease on top of grease. So we're gonna go ahead and clean that up very well so we can install our latch the way it's supposed to be. It's just a fairly easy mechanism. So essentially when you latch your car, this thing pretty much springs down and then it locks. That's how it looks from the inside. It just locks. And essentially when you unlatch, you pretty much have the wire going this way. So essentially this is what's causing the cable to pull towards you and unlatch. And that's when you can release the hood. Very easy component overall, just kind of big for what it is. But let's go ahead and give it a cleanup and let's install it back. And essentially what I'm trying to do right now is just kind of clean up the grease out, take some of that gunk that's just very stuck in there out. I'm gonna go ahead and sand it as well just to take the remaining grease off. I'm not trying to be too exact with the sanding, but I'm trying just to take the main portions off to make sure that the paint that we're going to apply sticks to it. Then I do have this little cool blower, and this thing pretty much blows at a very high velocity, so it's able to take all the little particles off, and that way you don't have to worry about them when you're painting them. I also applied a quick coat of alcohol because it dries fast and it also takes all the grease off. And for this experiment, I'm also going to use a metallic paint. This is a bright coat metallic finish from Rust-oleum. So there you go. We're just gonna apply a very light coat. And you can already see how this is starting to change. And they're just gonna wait for a little bit and wait until we kind of get that coat settled. Then we're gonna apply 2 more, and that's gonna be the end of it. After that, we're gonna move into the screws and make sure they're cleaned up as well. All right, there you go. And then the screws should be the easiest one. All right, moving into our bottom project. Let's give it a second coat. We're gonna just kind of move this lightly to another position so we can get all angles. All right, I think that's gonna be the end of that one. That looks really nice. While we get some of those pieces drying, we're gonna go ahead and clean these up. I'm gonna use my Meco El Verde, and this is a pretty much a duster, but it's extremely good because it has different nozzles and whatnot. You can get this at Meco El Verde. You can get it there. It's not expensive, but it's very, very good for this type of work. So go ahead and give it a quick cleanup. Decided to just use a plastic razor to just take some of that extra gunk out. A lot of these sealants and glues are old, so I like to remove them and just kind of redo them after. This is just very old already, so we could just redo this. I mean, it doesn't take too long to do it. And because I don't drive this car quite as often, I can kind of figure out when the best time is to do it and do it. Oof. There you go. A lot of dirt came out, which is always good. Just pieces of gunk. Oh, here it is. Found it. Here it is. This is what jumped up. Interesting. Just a little washer. So good that I found it. This looks beautiful. As you guys can tell, it's definitely taking into the nice metallic look. I may put some glossifier, but I'm not quite there yet, so I'm not sure. But for now, we're just gonna go ahead and leave like that. All right, and I waited about an hour and a half before I would pull this off, and there were still little bits and pieces that were not fully dried up. But overall, this is a fast, quick drying kind of finish. So you don't have to worry about leaving it there for hours and hours to dry. So it came out really good. I think it looks very pretty. Before I forget, I also went ahead and painted the spring in red. I used VHT Engine enamel, which is a high resistant, high temperature paint. I didn't quite like the finish, so I decided to just finish this one up the way it was, but I'm not gonna do the same with the other one. I just didn't quite like it. I'd rather just have it all black. And just wanted to simply point out how the mechanism works once you install the spring back. It's very soft and very nice. And once I finish painting it and removing all the gunk, you can really hear the satisfying click going really well into the metal, which I think it's really nice. It's not mushy, it's not gunky anymore. It just feels nice and clean. Installing this shouldn't be too difficult. It's pretty much a plug and play situation. There are no measurements. I did not measure anything around it. I kind of just did it by eye and then I tested it out. I went ahead and tightened up the screws, but not all the way because I want to be able to move it around in case the latch doesn't latch perfectly. I also went ahead and adjusted the spring that goes in the latch. And once that's done, I decided to go ahead and install the small little clips with the small little washers that pull the cable towards you whenever you're trying to open the latch. For some reason, I thought this part was going to take me a long time, but it actually clipped in right away, which was very nice. And I almost forgot. Do not forget to screw back your cable guidance. This is important because if you pull too hard on this cable, it'll just pull everything back. You don't want that. You want to have the guidance attached so that way only the inside portion of the cable is pulling and not the full thing. Moving into our driver's side, this is a completely different latch. However, the screws remain the same. You have one screw in one side and then you have two screws holding the main latch and then you have your screw for your guidance. I did notice that the screw that I'm currently removing does have a washer, and I believe that's just to hold the cables in place or the hoses for the vacuum system. Do keep in mind that your main guidance for the cable is in this place. There are a couple of holes, as you guys can tell, that guide or pull forward or back the cable. This is almost like a calibrating method, like a very rudimentary way of calibrating things. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the screw and place it back where it was so I don't forget which hole the screw was in. You also must remove the cable, and this was a very painful task for me to do. It took me quite a while until I was finally able to get the screw, untie it to remove that from the cable. And this mechanism, although you don't see this in cars anymore, essentially what's happening is you're gonna insert the cable in between this metal and the screw, and you're gonna use the screw to tighten up the cable so that way it doesn't move. One thing that I noticed is that when I was trying to remove the hoses or the vacuum system, there was a washer in between the holder and the screw, so be careful with that to not lose it. And honestly, this part wasn't too difficult. I think it was just very stuck to it because of the amount of gunk, but the removal wasn't hard at all. And as you guys can tell, this is a complete disaster. We're gonna go and overhaul this and make it pretty. All right, and looking at our latch, I wanted to just simply point out the components that you need or that you shouldn't lose. So you have a couple of washers, a couple of screws, and a couple of small pieces to make sure that you install this back into position properly. And the process for this will be the same. We're gonna go ahead and remove the main spring or the resistor. We're gonna go ahead and clean everything up. We're gonna sand it a little bit, and then we're gonna paint it and reinstall. And I simply wanted to take a look at the recalibrating portion of the cable, which is extremely funny to me. Also how the cable's attached to this particular screw, as well as the amount of dirt and gunk that you have in here. And as I mentioned, the process is exactly the same as previous. I'm just gonna go ahead and take more of a detailed approach to the main little portions. I did notice that this was extremely dirty and it was extremely difficult to take off. So I wanna make sure that I clean it and sand it, as well as spraying a little bit of WD-40 to make sure that next time I try to remove it or recalibrate it, it's a little bit easier. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. After a couple of hours of painting and allowing for it to dry off the right way, I can go ahead and safely install everything back. Once again, I'm gonna start by attaching the screws. I didn't wrote any measurements or any guidance for this, so I'm just kind of going with the flow on this one. I don't necessarily think there's much calibration to this, as the guidance is kind of there for the screws, so I don't think you need to write or scratch anything to make sure that it aligns perfectly. Like I said, I did left the screws just a tiny bit loose, so I can go ahead and latch it and see if everything closes properly. And once again, this is the part that usually gives me headaches, but it didn't take too long for me to make sure that I was able to put it properly. Tighten up really hard, because if you don't, when you pull on the interior, inside of your car, when you pull on the latch to open, this cable kind of comes off and it pretty much messes everything up. So make sure it's tightened up properly. Once you feel confident that everything's been installed properly, go inside the car and test out the latches. And that's pretty much it. Once the latches unlock and lock properly and everything feels good, you are able to finally call it a day. This is an extremely easy project and it changes the car so much. I wanted to give a huge shout out to 76 C3 Corvette because he was an inspiration for this video, as he did the same on his car, obviously to a professional level compared to me. But I think it's an amazing job to do because it does change the look of your car and it makes it that much nicer. With that being said, thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.